So we started the year, and it was extremely interesting because at that stage of the piece it was the only school in New Zealand, and it had brought in people from all over the country. So I think I knew one person, which was quite good really, because it made you have to meet others. And we had a sprinkling of men. I think we had about 6 or 7 when we started, and we lost a couple. So we got into lectures and learning, etc., and we were also told that we had exams after 6 months which we had to pass, otherwise you couldn't finish. And all of a sudden, she who had been a fairly lazy girl at a small private school suddenly found out that she had to work, and actually didn't have many clues about how to work. It was all a bit frightening really. The first time in my life I started to get concerned about maybe I won't pass. So worked very hard for the first 6 months, and then the results went up, and of course we lost a few. But fortunately my name was on the piece of paper, so I lived to breathe another day. And so on we went. We had a lot of fun. It was very interesting training. It was pretty strict and structured in those days. And we had this dreadful subject called Swedish remedial exercises, which I will never forget, with our black tunics and Lord knows what else. And by the end of 3 years, you never had any concern about dropping your clothes and roaming around in your knickers and your bras and whatever, because it was always part of your training. You had to observe things and things, so you really sort of lost any shyness or anything else that you might have had before you started. I was very naughty. I got into trouble. I don't think I'll ever stop getting into trouble, but I remember one occasion when we had a tiered lecture theatre, and we used to have these great big huge cane baskets. They were very big. They stood about 3 feet high and they were quite long, and our uniforms used to come back in these, and it was in the lecture theatre, and we were just about to go into a lecture and I needed a clean uniform, and they were right down the bottom, so I had my head in this thing and I was digging around the bottom trying to find my uniform, and the next thing I was upended by one of the men from behind, put in the basket, and they did up the straps, and I spent the entire lecture in the laundry basket, and everybody knew I was there. As you can see, I wasn't a model student. And I remember another occasion when I got into trouble. We used to, Saturday mornings we had to clean the outpatients department, would you believe? We had to come back and do that. And I was cleaning the whirlpool area one day, and I put some sort of soapy sud things in it, and I had them whirling like mad, and I thought it was quite fun, so I put more in, and we had bubbles all over the place. And I also had put the cleaning cloths in to clean them at the same time. I was killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and then suddenly somebody was coming, and I thought, oh goodness, I better just empty this quickly and get rid of this mess. So I emptied the whirlpool, and I totally forgot that I had about 15 cleaning cloths in there as well, which went down the plumbing system as well. And the outcome of that was we had a gigantic blockage, and I had to go and see Miss Gotts, and she told me that I was going to stay there with the plumber in the bowels of the hospital all afternoon until my little escapade was fixed. We formed tremendous friendships. You get very, very close. I mean, we were together, not like other university students. We worked from 8 till 5 or something, and there was no free periods or anything like that, and we spent a lot of time together. And in the 3rd year of our training we had to go away to subsidiary schools, and so we came down to smaller groups, and I made wonderful friends during this time. In fact, 4 of us flatted together here in Christchurch in our last year, and would you believe, at 70 plus, the 4 of us are here now, which is fantastic. Yes, so I flattered here for that year with Jill Gillespie, Jill Blewett she was then, and Kay Valentine, who was Kay Cummings, and Pippa Davies, who was Pippa Chatwin. And Kay is the only one that's carried on with her physiotherapy. In fact, she only retired about 3 years ago, and the others haven't picked it up again. But Pippa has developed an awful lot of skills in other directions. She works with fabrics and things, and she's been extremely successful. A lot of physios have an artistic side, I've discovered. So that was that, and eventually we graduated and we were thrust upon the world. And that was quite interesting, because I was living in Dunedin, and because I came from Dunedin, and I had 3 weeks holiday after I graduated, and then I went back on the staff. So I went back to the hospital, and all of a sudden I went from the students' common room to the staff common room. And I was so nervous and felt so inadequate that I don't think I went to morning tea for about 3 months. And I always remember Pat Payne, who was a lovely person who I was working with in outpatients, and she suddenly said to me, I haven't seen you at morning tea or afternoon tea. She said, are you not going? And I said, no, not really. I think she understood immediately what my problem was, so she offered to take me in that day. So I finally sheepishly went into the staff room. And yes, I suppose that was the turning point. But I always remember, and a lot of people that are listening to this will remember Miss Hislop, who taught us SRE, etc. And she was a very strong-minded lady. And this morning, after I'd got my cup of tea and sat down, she was standing up at a desk or table or something, and she was reading one of the textbooks. And I sort of looked at her like this, and she looked up and she caught me looking at her, and she said, you thought I knew it all, didn't you? That was quite funny. Sort of broke the ice a bit.